This is the College Football Connection Podcast with Alvin Reed, Bradford Bruns, and Marty Jenkins on 101 ESPN.
You saved a little room at the table for a feast of the college football variety. What's up, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving to you out there in the audience. You and yours, Bradford Bruns and Alvin Reed, back with you, albeit early in the week here on the College Football Connection, leading up to running into Thanksgiving and a loaded slate on 101 ESPN, that YouTube channel, and 101ESPN.com. Alvin, week number 14 on the gridiron across campuses everywhere. It is so big, my friend, we have to split it up into 2 episodes this week, but we're looking forward to it.
Hey, Friday Fun Day. Man, a lot of action taking place on Friday.
That's right.
Possible bowl bids at stake for those teams that are trying desperately to get a 6th win, and absolutely some impact on the college football playoff on a Friday.
Indeed. Black Friday and perhaps a finale. We don't know. We have no clue at this juncture as to what will be happening, though, in Oxford, Mississippi. Or should we say for the current head coach in Oxford. This one is going to be transpiring in Starkville, in fact. But you know, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, the patented Egg Bowl showdown, that is going to kick off our 4-pack of games as we look at the Black Friday slate, and then dig into the following day, 6 more as well. But Alvin, supposedly, we are going to have a decision of some kind. We think on Saturday, the day after the Egg Bowl, as it pertains to Lane Kiffin. Should he stay or will he go? In any event, though, you have the Reps on the precipice, on the cusp of trying to qualify for their first ever CFP, favored by 6.5 in this rivalry showdown, over-under of 62.5, kicking off bright and early on Friday at 11 o'clock at Davis-Wade Stadium. So much conjecture of the non-football variety surrounding this one, going into this one, and that would stand to reason as to why this number right now at present is only at 6.5. And by the same token, Ole Miss knows what is at stake. You're trying to complete your most successful regular season in over 60 years. What's your feel for the actual on-field product as we get closer to this?
Well, I'll tell you what. I think, and this is important, okay? I think Lane Kiffin is staying at Mississippi. It's maybe just a hunch. I know my man, Paul Feinbaum says he thinks he's going.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's going to stay. And I think Mississippi comes out and whoops tail and heads on into the college football playoff. Think of the jobs that you really want in college football. Now, you had one of them, because I would still include USC. You don't think Lane Kiffin could end up at Michigan? I mean, Sherrod Moore. All right, okay, so, we was that bandy little team that won games, and we didn't embarrass ourselves this year, but another year of that. You don't think Lane Kiffin could coach there? You don't think Lane Kiffin could coach Alabama? You don't think Lane Kiffin could coach Georgia?
Anywhere, essentially.
Right. So I just think he said, you know what? For a guy who has not been in the playoff, for a guy who has not been down to what we would technically call the Final Four, even before we had the playoff.
Sure.
Isn't he playing on house money at Ole Miss?
Right now.
So why? Not yet. That's what I think.
Okay.
But anyway, Mississippi's better, obviously, than Mississippi State. Mississippi State, when they got rolled 2 weeks ago here by Missouri, it's long season, and they've played above their heads. And so much is at stake for Lane Kiffin and for Mississippi. They don't fool around with Mississippi State. I realize it's in Starkville, but so what? Yeah. I mean, that the better team will win, and the better team will win by more than 6.5.
Yeah, in spite of everything, that number at just 6.5. So basically, to me, Alvin, that implies Mississippi is not going to be sharp by any stretch of the imagination here. And for Mississippi State, frankly, to stay in this ball game, unless your heads collectively are completely in the clouds, I'm not sure how, from a sheer talent standpoint, Ole Miss doesn't win this one going away, running away. I was very, very suspicious. And I understand as well, there's a ton for which to still play if you are indeed the Bulldogs. You're 5-6 against all odds heading into this season. You go from being one of the most decrepit, woeful teams in all of Power 4 football to being respectable.
Yeah.
Now, we knew it wouldn't be easy by any means in the SEC. You're just 1-6. But you have that conference victory. You're not Arkansas. We'll get to Arkansas here in a couple of days on the CFC. But I still left my head. I left Faurot Field a couple of weeks ago scratching my head about some of the decision-making down the stretch. And now Mississippi State still lacks playmakers on both sides of the football. But if this one is somewhat tight, edging its way into the second half, third quarter, whatever, I don't know if Jeff Lebby, based on what I saw a couple of weeks ago, true, in a vacuum, in isolation, is going to be able to have his football team in a position to pull it out or to, for that matter, keep it relatively remotely close. There is such a talent discrepancy there, whether I am pounding the ball with Lacey for the entirety of this tilt or letting Chambliss do his thing. There is too much to overcome here, I think, for Mississippi State. So that number going down to 6.5 as well, that only strengthens my confidence here in siding once again with Ole Miss. Ole Miss in a rout, and that number of 62.5 by the same token, that's a big figure. That suggests that Mississippi State also has to score, not in equal measure, but keep up. I don't think it's possible.
And I left it alone because I will concede to you whatever's going on in everybody's heads, that makes me not know what the score is going to be. I do think Mississippi covers 6.5. I just don't know what kind of game it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so, like, you hit the nail on the head as far as the over-under is concerned. I mean, that's a lot of points if Mississippi State doesn't score points. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be the case if, Ole Miss actually shows up for the game. There's no way that this team would not know what the coach was going to do the next day.
It's not possible.
It's not possible.
Come on.
Right. Thus, if they know he's leaving, then it could be what are we shelling out right now? And if he told them, like, hey, I'm leaving to take this job and I'm not even coaching the team in the college football playoff, they could, good luck winning today.
Quick aside for you.
All right.
Let's say Mississippi is able to get the job done.
Yes.
Irrespective of what happens the following morning or afternoon, because we expect a decision. I don't know if that's ironclad at this point either. Right. I don't know. With respect to the AD there and the administration, everybody basically is catering to Lane in that regard. The Rebels do it in style. You have the one loss. You are poised to host a first-round playoff game. In the eyes of the committee, however, let's say that Lane indeed decides to jump ship. Should this team be dropped down as far as seeding, as far as not notching that home game in Oxford because of the decision made by the coach?
I could see being knocked down a peg and losing that home game.
Exactly.
They hate him as much as they hated him at USC, and they would just hate him.
Can you imagine?
They would just hate him. Wow.
I've turned over a new leaf. Here's my daily scripture via Twitter.
Right. I mean, they would hate him if he did that. And they lost that home game. Oh, woo. Yeah,
fascinating to think about. Wouldn't be the storybook finish that everybody obviously covets there in the Oxford area. But speaking of trying to look for somewhat of a regular season storybook finish, your boys, Alvin. Hey, let's not shudder at this, even though it is daunting to bring Utah into the house on Senior Day on Friday, 11 o'clock, David Booth Memorial Stadium. The Utes favored by 12.5. KU, meanwhile, at 5-6, trying to clinch that bowl eligibility. Didn't happen last season. 3-5 in the Big 12. Over-under here of 59.5. And finally, we are going to bid adieu to one Jalen Daniels. He has not been the problem by any means so far in 2025. But when I'm evaluating this matchup, Alvin, I am exceedingly worried about one thing, and one thing specifically. That would be the run defense. Defense in particular, all the way around for Kansas, but the run D, because Utah has been very proficient, prolific even, on the ground, looking to do the same on the road, you would think here.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I will say that Jalen Daniels has been part of the problem. He's got some decent numbers, but he has not exuded confidence or true leadership in the games when they really counted the most.
You saw some stat padding earlier.
And I've also seen these performances at Kansas State and now, like, Iowa State last week.
Fair.
And it's just not, dude, you can't do that you can't. And he's done it more than once. Anyway, I'm not blaming it all on him. Mm-hmm. But now we find ourselves here, in this game. And while Utah can run the ball, Utah has had a little bit of trouble holding people down. They've been in some games because they gave up a lot of points.
K-State.
Right. KU can, when they're working right, can score points. Problem is the defense can't hold anybody like in the fourth quarter.
Right.
I think things add up to a lot closer game than 12.5 points. I just don't think they'll go belly up in this football game. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you that they're going to win, as much as on the line about going to a bowl game and all that. I do think that they bring a little bit more to the table than to get beat by 2 touchdowns. I like the KU, the Jayhawks on taking the points. Boy, I'm also going to play the over on this. Now, I do understand that, and the weather's supposed to cut up here, but they don't know what exactly is going to be going on.
Riding that line
on Friday. So it's games are in the 30s when it's sleeting. Mm-hmm. Games are in the 30s when it's hot. Whatever. So I can't just say if it's raining, the score will be 7-3. I don't think so. So I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to take my 12.5, and I'm going to play the over on it. Seems like a lot of points, but I'm going to play the over on it.
Okay.
I think either KU can't stop Utah, and Utah just trying to get into the Holiday Bowl or the whatever the big major bowls other than the CFP are. They roll KU, and look, maybe we don't get that we're not going to the college football playoff, but at the same time, major bowl. So sure. I could see them. I don't want to say running the score up, but I could see them playing hard for 4 quarters.
Absolutely. It's a big number, which is why I'm staying away from the over-under prediction in this scenario. However, Alvin, I'm going to ride with you. I'm going to concur because I do believe that KU has a little something for Utah in this particular instance. Big 12 opponents or not, there's not that inherent familiarity factor here. These two schools haven't even met since 1996. It's just the second all-time meeting between the two, if I'm not mistaken, what with the realignment and everything. And for as much credit as we want to give to the Utah running attack in particular, and the fact that we know, we are fully cognizant that KU is just, my goodness, 14th in the Big 12 when it comes to rushing defense from that particular unit. There is a key development insofar as if this ground game for the Jayhawks can be able to really get things on track, considering the weather conditions could be of even more paramount importance there. The Utah defensive end and the star one at that, John Henry Daly, he suffered what appears to have been the season-ending lower leg injury against the Wildcats in that game, that thriller last weekend. Not only Alvin, does he pace this Utah team in sacks, also tackles for loss. So if you have one less guy from that sterling, stout defensive front four being able to get penetration, making life slightly easier for Jalen Daniels and company, that is a win. Like you, I'm not saying that outright straight up Kansas is going to be able to prevail in this contest. But I definitely think it just shocked me a couple of days ago when the opening line came out and I saw Utah favor Utah with all of the chinks in the armor, honestly, over the last few weeks. Favored by 14.5. It has since gone down, obviously. It's too big of a number here. Yeah, staying away from the over-under, but I have confidence in KU to be able to make this a game. And I also think you can speak to this, obviously, a bit more than I can. But for the second straight year, I'm not saying that it's perilous if you fail to qualify for the postseason, but as far as the culture, as far as everything being cultivated by Coach Leipold there in Lawrence, it would not be a good look. It would not help the momentum that is seemingly there, what with the stadium, what with everything you're trying to build.
Everything going on. And Coach was first to say after the game, we have crisis of confidence right now. Ooh. He said, I'm looking out here and I see guys that just aren't very confident in what they are doing.
Don't like to hear that.
And the fan base felt the exact same way after really the K-State game, but this Iowa State game last week. And, the things you just said, that is exactly. Now, I'm not one of it's new coach time guys, but I will tell you that there is some frustration with this season and how did we get to this point? Now 2 years ago, 4 games, they very easily could have won. This year, 3 games, they very easily could have won. I mean, coming down to the last drive of the game, just getting a stop. or kicking a field goal ourselves.
Sure.
And but you didn't do it. So now you get the number 12 team in the country coming in, and you got to win this game to go to a bowl game. I mean, that's not a situation you want to be in. But, as far as you and I are concerned, KU doesn't have to win. They just have to, play well enough, as they say.
And, hey, at the commencement of the season, the Big 12, it did seem, by all accords, by all accounts, to be more wide open. So to be here on the cusp of week number 14 and needing a win, literally, to extend your season, little sobering in that effect.
Yes.
Now, speaking of sobering results, as we switch it over to the ACC, Alvin, my goodness, last week here on the College Football Connection on 101 ESPN, that YouTube channel, and 101ESPN.com, if there were one game in which, quite honestly, I felt as if I had the utmost confidence, that would have been Pitt and Georgia Tech. Well, my goodness, blink, basically step out for a bathroom break, whatever. After a quarter, that game, for all intents and purposes, was over in favor of the Panthers. Georgia Tech, hey, and it wasn't just confined to a defensive issue last weekend. Haynes King, a pair of critical turnovers, the pick six taken the other way by Pitt, and Georgia Tech ends its ACC season with a loss. Now, that's still an unbelievable mess. We have no clue as to the team that's going to be emerging with the trip or a pair of trips to the title game there in Charlotte. But goodness gracious now, in a game that is not hosted, obviously, in this sense by the Yellow Jackets, instead, you're playing Georgia. It is the annual rivalry, this one kicking off at 2:30 on Friday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But because of just how vulnerable and what that defense has resembled, just an absolute sieve in the past month, for the past month, really.
Yep.
Georgia is now up to a 14.5-point favorite, Alvin, over under a 59.5. Georgia's been impressive, but as we saw last season, 8 overtimes, even when Georgia Tech was down, anything goes in this setting. That is a huge number.
I know.
What?
I know. It's a huge number. And you said it. So, that number, how many points are off based on what we just saw against Pitt? 1 week earlier. Let's just say Georgia Tech wins that game by 1 point or 3 points in overtime, where they just took everything they had to win that game. Mm-hmm. I doubt that they would be a dog by 14.5 to Georgia. No. I just can't believe that. Now, do I believe that Georgia covers the 14.5? By golly, I do. I don't know why, because I'd boy, you talk about crisis of confidence, I got it in Georgia Tech now. Because that whole, man, do you think he'll get the Auburn job? Do you think he'll go there? No, he'll be coach at Georgia Tech next year. Mm-hmm. Based on that.
Find yourself a DC.
Right. And, by the way, later, a game coming up on, I guess, Saturday has an impact on that line, too. We'll get to that one. Mm-hmm. But it's just boy, I can't even put that looking past Pitt. Because you had too much on the line as far as ACC was concerned, that you'd say we want Georgia so bad and we're just going to just brush Pitt aside. I can't believe that. I just can't. So I don't know. I know this. I'll put it. I do know this. They ran the ball. They passed the ball. Your defense did not. Nope. I don't know what their scheme was, whatever. But they ran the ball on you all and they passed the ball on you all.
Zero resistance whatsoever.
Right. And I think I don't know what you can do in 6 days. That will stop Georgia from, if not passing all over you, just running all over you. Yeah, that's why I'm going to lean to that 14.5. And it is a rivalry game. These rivalry games, you don't got no mercy on nobody, right? So that's another reason where Georgia might be up and the starting quarterback still be in the game, 5 minutes into the fourth quarter.
Yep.
That's why they're let's step on their necks. Just let them know that we are the big kid on the block. And, you guys had a fun season, but, boy, got rickety at the end here, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. It was cute.
It was cute.
It's over now.
Right,
it's over now. So. And that is precisely why, as opposed to the last game, Utah and Kansas, I am hammering the over of 59.5 here, because whether you're talking about Georgia adding to the style points quotient here, Number 4 team in the land at present in both of the polls. I don't know if you need to really be able to build that up so much more, but by the same token, here's what we do know. You're talking about now what is the number 26th scoring outfit in the country, has really elevated in that department, averaging now almost 34 points per game, and we continue to see, I firmly believe, on a week-in, week-out basis, Gunnar Stockton, he is doing nothing but continuing to improve with each particular starts that he is able to. All of the starts he is able to net. He now is up, Alvin, to 19 TDs. He's been very proficient, very efficient in the passing game, too, at about 72%. But some of the training wheels, the kid gloves, have been removed as well as far as allowing him to actually matriculate that ball down the field. So I think everything here is shaking out to be a very explosive offensive game. But considering that it is a key annual rivalry contest here, and we know that Georgia Tech gets up consistently for this game. I'm not saying Georgia Tech is really competitive in the last few minutes, but if you're saying, can you stay within 2 touchdowns? I'm saying yes, thank you very much, because last year's squad was significantly worse as far as overall talent on the board, and that one went to basically an unprecedented 8 OTs.
Yes.
So why not? Why not? GT plus 14.5, just a little begrudgingly there.
Okay, all right. I just think, I hear you, and then, it wasn't too long ago that Georgia Tech beat Georgia. Probably in the last decade, this has happened, the last 5 years maybe. But, boy, I think that something showed against Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And I just can't, I could roll with confidence that Georgia covers in this one.
Perhaps the dam utterly broke in that particular set.
34-17.
And may have.
34-17.
Now,
something like that.
Speaking, though, of some defensive issues, well, both of the teams that we're previewing here on the final contest for Black Friday edition of the College Football Connection, Bradford and Alvin with you. Texas A&M has definitely been suspicious in that area, was more than suspicious in the first half a couple of weeks ago against South Carolina. Oh, and that looked a lot like the version we thought we would see all season from Lenore Sellers. Only to have a school record comeback mustered in the second half to save the day. I'm not saying save the CFP hopes, but let's just say preserving that number 3 spot in the rankings for the Aggies. Favored by 2.5 against Texas, traveling to DKR Texas Memorial Stadium, 6:30 p.m. It is a dandy on Friday night, Alvin. I honestly think, genuinely, this should be the best game we see out of a loaded slate on Black Friday, because Texas has zero margin for error. We understand that has been the case for several weeks now. Some would say at 8-3, 5-2 in the SEC. It's a non-starter as far as the CFP talk. But if you find a way, if you figure out a way to be able to pull it out against the undefeated squad for Mike Elko, well, then the situation changes dramatically, drastically. And given how, I will say it, Arch played, albeit against the Razorbacks a week ago, career best performance, 6 TDs altogether. He's running, he's throwing, he's catching, for crying out loud. He looks a lot better because the play action is working to great effect there in Austin. But will it work in the same way against the Aggies?
Boy, the spread is so low that I'm looking at it and I'm just like, I gotta go with Texas A&M in this one, because I think they're going to win, and so then I think they could cover. Mm-hmm. I also think that they are bound and determined to let young Manning know that, hey, whatever you're going to be, but you're not going to be it tonight.
Not on our watch.
No, we're going to knock you around, okay? And I think that will be part of their goal, is to really get after him. And they've been able to throw the ball. Now, I don't know, last week's game against Arkansas, I don't know what to say about it.
Arkansas.
Yeah, it's Arkansas.
It's not Arkansas defense.
Yeah, I'm glad you ran for one, passed for one, caught one. Oh boy, nobody has ever done that in Texas history, quarterback. So you now have is that your legacy at Texas? Great. Wow.
Oh, come on.
Now. But no, I think Texas A&M wins the football game. I think they win by more than 2.5 points, which is a field goal, which could be kicking it at the very end of the game in a tie game, which is winning in overtime. By getting a stop and then kicking a field goal. So, close game. Texas A&M prevails. Over under 51.5. Boy, I tell you, that seems a little low to me.
Oh yeah,
that seems a little low to me. So I think I'm gonna take the over on that one.
2 of the last 3 games, not counting that Georgia verdict. Actually, we do have to count that as well because you're talking about having taken one on the chin, and considerably so. So, Alvin, when you think about, go back to the last month, okay? More than just a small, abbreviated sample size. That much ballyhooed Longhorns defense, and this is why for the second consecutive contest, I'm hammering the over right here, right now. To Mississippi State, you permitted 38 points.
Yep.
The following week, to Vanderbilt, you won, but in the second half, you were a sieve. You allowed 31 points.
After having a big lead.
Thank you very much. Georgia, we know you surrendered 35, and you were obliterated in that contest. And, oh, yeah, you still gave up 37 to Arkansas. Yes, that offense can churn out the points and the yardage under Bobby Petrino, but you allowed 37 points to a team that has not won a game in league play. And now, all of a sudden, you're expected to contain the guy who, mind you, Marcel Reed, leads the SEC in TD passes. Who would have thought at the beginning of the season, the dual threat Marcel Reed leading the league in touchdown passes with 25. The points are going to be flying absolutely from start to finish here. I do think that Texas is going to be in this until the very end. In fact, I'm shying away from picking A&M or Texas outright. But if there is one thing in which I am wholly confident in Week 14, it's this game's ability to absolutely shoot past 51.5. And also, the motivating factor here, what happened last season? So Texas had the opportunity to go on the road at Kyle Field and basically sully a lot of hopes for A&M, at the very least, clinch a spot in that conference title game. It did precisely that. It would be absolutely sweet, kind of the pinnacle, you could say, for an A&M to not only defeat Texas in a get-back opportunity, a rivalry game renewed, but also, how about completing the first 12-0 regular season, honestly, since 1992?
Yeah.
It would be remarkable, and you can do it right here.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So we've got 4 in the can here for Black Friday. We thank you very much, guys, for tuning in, spending a little bit of your holiday week later in the week with us. And fear not, come back around before the Saturday slate gets going, because we've got 6 more games to unpack. So much to celebrate, obviously, this time of the year, this time for this particular season. Alvin, as always, very thankful for your time and just the opportunity to rap with you. It's hard to believe we're talking about the final real week of the regular season, but we've gotten to that point, my friend.
Hey, I write them at the top of the page, and when I was looking at Week 14, and it's really Week 15 because there was a Week 0. It's really weird. Yeah. But anyway, it's fun watching these teams throughout the season. I will say that this year, let's go back to the Georgia Tech Pitt game, okay, where you just said, like, now how'd Pitt do that? But it really does seem like, and we've said this from early on, I can't tell you a team that couldn't win the national championship.
You're right.
And I ain't even talking about the 12 that get in, because somebody's not going to get in. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you know what, if we had a chance, I really do think we could go on the road and win that first game. And then if you do that, then, it's neutral site and on and on and on. How close was Arizona State last year? But they seemed like kind of a Cinderella kind of flukish kind of thing.
True.
Whereas this year, it just seems like, no, there's some teams down there that are lurking at 8 or 9 that do you really want some of? Mm-hmm. Notre Dame, some of the other, that maybe they might move up. Alabama got dropped. You want to play Alabama CFP? Okay. All right. Ooh, really cool. We get to host Alabama. Yeah, okay. All right. Win that game. Big shots.
Be careful for what you wish.
There you go. So anyway, yeah, but a lot will be told in the next, almost 8 days.
Yep.
Because we'll be back around again, and it will. I do like that the CFP committee. I won't say I like this, but they just come on and talk. But it really doesn't mean anything because you have to play all the rest of the games.
Yes, and so many.
And then it won't be that the conference championship games dramatically change unless somebody gets in one that just really was supposed to, wins. But most of them, you've got teams that are in contention for the CFP anyhow. So it isn't like if Georgia lost the SEC championship game, I don't think Georgia's going to be kept out of it.
No.
Right. No. So the games are going to play out.
Right.
So I don't think when I was talking about that, look, if you're 13 or 14, I think you'll be 13 or 14 because you never got that high or you lost. this weekend, something like that.
Fair enough. Meanwhile, though, out there in the audience, still a fair share of schools saying, quoting the great Lloyd Christmas. So you're saying there's a chance. There is a chance for calamity and chaos as we move along week number 14 of the season. For Alvin Reed, for Marty Jenkins, my name is Bradford Bruns. Thank you very much, St. Louis, and everywhere, wherever you may be tuned in. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. We'll see you later in the week on the College Football Connection, only on 101 ESPN, the YouTube channel, and 101ESPN.com. Take care. So long for now.